Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 2 of Conversations in Pop Culture, where I have with me professional wrestler and formerly one third and now possibly one half of the show crew, Bryce Donovan. So, welcome to the show.
Well, welcome. We're still one third officially.
So we're
Uh,
still one third.
we're
That's good to know.
still
One
equal.
third is in a awesome company at this point, and we'll leave it at that.
Mhm.
So I do want to talk a lot about the show crew, though, because I think that is the majority of your career so far. But before we
Yes.
get into that, I am curious how you got into wrestling.
Like how I started watching it or how I got into actually doing it.
How did you become a professional wrestler? Because I'm very
Uh,
curious on
yeah.
that.
I mean, it's just always something I wanted to do. Like I never in my life thought I wouldn't kind of like it was always just like, oh yeah, like, and then after I go to college, I'll like start wrestling. It was just always like, yeah, I'll do this. I'm interested in this. And then obviously after college, I'll start like wrestling training or whatever. So it was always just kind of expected. And then I was in college on Long Island, and I was like, my plan was always after I finish college, I'll start. But I was doing like really well, and I was like, I can handle all this work. I'll start wrestling now. So it's like 2 years in college, I started wrestling, and there's like there's a bunch of schools. Like New York is like a good spot if you want to learn to be a wrestler. There's a bunch of schools, but I just happened to I was in a YouTube rabbit hole, which I'm sure every wrestling fan can relate to, where you're on YouTube shoot interviews and it recommends another one, and you just kind of do that for a few hours. I'm sure everyone has done that, but I ended up on a Kurt Hawkins one where he talked about his school opening. He's like, "Oh yeah, my school on Long Island." I was like, I didn't even know that he had a school on Long Island or anything like that. So I was like, "Oh, like that's perfect. Like what better spot to go to?" So I looked it up, saw who was training there, like what they were doing, and so I just kind of went. I just went one day. I emailed them. I said, "Hey, can I come like watch a class?" They're like, "Yeah, sure, come watch a class." So I come watch a class. It's cool. Like I was like, "Wow, I'm like watching wrestling training. This is like what I want to do." Immediately after, just signed up for. They have like pace. I just signed up for the year, like full year, lock it in, and that was it. And I started wrestling training, and it was crazy. Like if you look at the class I watched, which is the first class I sat in and watched, if someone watched it with me, you would have seen MJF training, you would have seen Max Caster training, Bear Bronson training, like Alex Reynolds from Dark Order was there. Like you would have seen all of these guys training, and this is like their first year. Their I guess Max's probably second year. I think MJF and Bronson were probably in for a little less than a year at that point. So yeah, I just signed up right there and just did it. I think it's you kind of just have to jump into it.
So to even talk about that, because it's kind of one of those things I think sometimes happens where I think there's only two ways people get involved in wrestling training and all that is that either they get in and they're on the shore and they're swimming out to the middle of, I guess, an island, for lack of a better word, or they jump in and they figure out where they're going with
Mm-hmm.
it. And I think those are the two methodologies. I really haven't heard any other way they get into it. But what was it like from both the physical side and the mental side? Because there is two sides to wrestling. There is
Yeah.
the physical stuff, the move sets, but then there's also the mental side of selling and also even just getting accustomed to the lifestyle because it is a different lifestyle
Yeah.
than other things, and you need to be preparing for it because there are things that when you're on the road. Not to take anything away from Limitless, it's a great name for what they've done, but I think it's very accurate where it is a road in wrestling.
Yeah. Oh well, Limitless especially is a road. That was like a 7 hour drive to go do a Limitless show for me. So very much it's a road. But yeah, I mean just the physical side, like it hurts obviously. Like it's like painful, and I'm like I consider myself athletic, and it's still like was painful and hard like the first time you do it, especially like things you wouldn't expect. Like obviously everyone can look at it and go, oh yeah, getting slammed, that would hurt. Like of course, like everyone can look at it and go, that would hurt. But like things like smaller things you don't do, like hitting the ropes your first time hurts like really badly. Like that was like the most pain I was in like my first like 2 weeks. It was just welts on my back from hitting the ropes. Like it just hurt so bad. And it was hard for me because I was like taller. So like structuring my body right, like trying to like hit them the right way. So I just kept having like these welts on like my back for the first like 2 weeks. It's hard to get into it, but I don't know. Like that going in. Like I knew that going in. So it's not like it caught me off guard. If it caught someone off guard, they were probably very unprepared for wrestling training if they left the first practice and they were like, wow, like why did it hurt so bad? It's like, okay, like you probably you probably didn't have the right mindset going into this. But like the road, like I don't know. I do hate like long drives. Like I'm not like a big like Bobby from Shook Crew could not care less. He'll go on like 15, 20-hour drives. He doesn't care. Like he'll grow everywhere. I'm fine with the drives, but it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, no, drives, whatever. I'm always like, oh geez, like 10 hours to this show, like brutal. But I mean, if you're with good people in a car and like I usually went like most of my rides are with Max, like you have like if you're with someone that like you're friends with, like genuinely, like it's just like hanging out for where you're trapped in a small space for a long time. But I mean, all that stuff makes it a lot easier. The actual like road travel and stuff, especially like I don't know, just if you have, I mean, basically just if you have cool people in your car, it kind of makes it like it kind of makes it worth it. Like I have like some of my best memories or like funniest memories in wrestling are from car rides. I'm sure other wrestlers would say the same thing. So yeah, that's pretty much like the road aspect of it, which the last year has been cut off because there were no shows and no traveling. So I guess now I'm like, oh yeah, I'm fine with doing these car rides.
And just to give an idea here, and I don't know if you saw it, but Alec Price just put something up, and I think it was like 20 seconds of him and a bunch of people in a car going on one of their first road trips for the first time in almost a year.
Yeah.
And like he looked super
They're
stoked.
probably hype. Yeah, especially him. He's like super new. So like he probably didn't even get to like get acclimated before everything got shut down.
And so one of the
enjoying himself.
And so one of the things I think AC Romero and Danger Kid were in that car, and a few other people were in that car too. And I think it was either 4 or 5 wrestlers, and it was just like they were all pumped up and excited because this is the first time they're coming out. And I think you hit it sort of on the nail on the head there, where now you're sort of excited to go on the road when you get the opportunity because it's like I've been trapped or you've been trapped.
Yeah.
And everybody else in America has been more or less trapped for the last year. And now things are starting to sort of get back up, even if it's a 2-hour drive. Yeah. So obviously, I think that's going to be very exciting for you.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like that sounds like. I mean, I know all those guys are like friends. Like, sounds like a fun time for them. Like, I'm sure they were super hyped, and I'm sure they had a fun car ride. But like, yeah, the road aspect. Like, again, it's the same thing as the pain. Like, I don't think anyone signs up for wrestling and goes, "Wait, like I have to travel. Like, I have to like go places." Like, yeah, of course you do. Like, so, I mean, it's up to you. It's what you make of it. Kind of when you're in that car. I guess you could also just be a sleeper and you could just sleep the entire car ride if you really wanted to, unless you're driving. But yeah, that's fine. Also, for since we're talking about starting to train to be a wrestler, is this live or is this like airing?
Yeah, somewhere? We're live. We're live.
We're live now. Okay, we're live. I should tweet this link. But yeah, if anyone, Creative Pro's having an open house. Creative Pro New Jersey is having one tomorrow, but Creative Pro New York is having one on Thursday. That I will be there. So yeah, it's look it up. It's on all our social media. Open house for anyone who wants to start training new people. Like if you want to get into it, go to Creative Pro Wrestling. It's like it's not like you sound like arrogant saying like, oh, it's the best school, like it's the best, but like if you're in the area, like what better, like just look at the resume of who in the last year has gotten signed there.
So let's talk about that because you had a bunch of matches, and I do want to name drop. So obviously, it's Kurt Hawkins is and Pat Buck. Are sort of the two that are massive of the trainers that everybody knows. Pat Buck is signed to WWE. Kurt an Impact or
he's an Impact, yeah. So if you look at obviously we have a bunch of guys signed to AEW. We have our head trainer signed to Impact, and we have our other head trainer, a WWE producer. Like those are the three companies in the US, and you have access to all of them. So it's like, I mean, what more could you ask for at a school?
And then obviously Max Caster, which we're going to talk about in detail. Obviously MJF You wrestled there, and so that's something that I think is big as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kip Stevens has done a lot of work as a quote unquote, and I hate to use this word because I like Kip a lot, as a jobber for WWE, and
Yeah.
so he's been doing a lot of work for them, and then Rex Lawless. I don't know if Rex has done stuff, but Rex has been around for a while as well. And this is sort of, I guess, we're going really through your first year super quickly. And
Mm-hmm.
so obviously, and I could just name a bunch more names, but what was all of that like? Because obviously, when we talk about Creative Pro, so many people have come out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so many wrestlers on the indies have come out of this. Chris Stratolander, I think, is another name to drop. And so, what is all that like for you, knowing that you were trained out of a very good place?
So, like, yeah, that first year class, the one that I sat and watched before I signed up, is like as good of a class as you can get, legitimately. Like, Max, Bronson, MJF, like those three guys were all there in that first year. Smart Mark Sterling was there. He's obviously main evented Dynamite against John Moxley. Again, like Alex Reynolds and John Silver, all they didn't like start training at Creative Pro. Obviously, they've been training for years, but they work. That's where they train. Like that's where they train. They're trained now at Creative Pro. Like Alex and John, and when they were there that first year, they were training there. Alex was the third trainer. It was Brian, Pat, and Alex. Alex was the third guy, and like I didn't like you don't know it at the time because obviously all these guys are new. MJF's not MJF yet. Although that's probably the most obvious one of he's gonna be whatever, but like he wasn't MJF yet. Max wasn't Platinum Max yet. Like Bronson wasn't Bear Bronson yet. So it more hit you, and obviously Pat wasn't a WWE producer yet. Alex wasn't signed yet. So like it hit you like looking at um Brian, because like obviously Brian had already been like WWE Tag Team Champion, but it's you knew at the time like you had faith that this is like we're all being trained the right way, and you felt it that those first 2 years. Like I started and like that's when Chris Statlander started a little after, and then like you kind of felt like yeah, we're learning the right way here. Like they're teaching us the right way. They're not just here to a lot of schools are here to take your money, or they're here just to kind of whatever it. Like we're being trained the right way, and you just kind of had faith in that, and you like really felt that the first 2 years, and then clearly it paid off because you could just look at where all those guys were going and where they're all be. And like he mentioned Kip like doing the WWE stuff, like that's another thing. Like we all got set up to do extra work for those companies. Like I was part of Batista's thing at WrestleMania, his entrance. Like I've done other things for WWE, like the extra work stuff, and like those are other opportunities you get. Obviously not right now, particularly, but I'm sure again in the future, like that's stuff that you will get at Creative Pro. If you, it's not just like obviously walk in like, hey, do you want to go to WWE next week? It's just if you go there and you work hard and you try, and they see you doing that, like you'll have opportunities. Like that's the one thing. This like everyone at Creative Pro is there to help you and put you in a better position, and they're going to do that consistently as long as you are putting in the effort also.
Yeah, and obviously there's two things with WWE extra work. Obviously, it is some money in your pocket per
Oh
se,
yeah, that's
and
always nice.
when you're broke, any money's super helpful. And also, you're in a WWE building for that night. You're involved in some type of WWE either shoot or promo or a quick match or an entrance. And it's like not everybody on the indies gets to go to WWE, not everybody gets to go to AEW. So to
Mhm.
even just get the experience of, oh man, I'm in front of,
Yeah,
9,000 fans, I mean, it changes your perspective. And it is a part of your training to some degree, being able to perform in front of a bunch of people, even if it's not a big spot, because obviously there's a much larger thing going on in the
yeah.
WWE universe and sphere,
Well,
as I like to
like
call
big,
it. Yeah.
yeah. Like small spots can turn a bit. Like it's the same thing with AEW now that they have Dark, and obviously you see indie guys every week on Dark. Like Platinum Max was signed off of Dark. He came, did the extra work, and they loved him, and he's got signed off Dark. The Bears, Bear Country, had a match on Dark, and they got signed off of Dark. Like these, you're gonna have the opportunity, and it's not like, oh, other places you don't have this. Obviously you do, but I'm saying if you're in the area, uh, you're gonna have these opportunities at Creative Pro. You're gonna have these connections where if you have the talent, if you're putting talent forward, like you don't have to worry of, oh, I'll never be able to get my foot in the door anywhere. Like you have people that will help you get your foot in the door at these places, which is just invaluable in wrestling.
Yeah, and I think Creative Pro also, and if we didn't already allude to it, they pretty much are a school that is a promotion at the
Yeah,
same time, and so it's almost, I don't know what it's called, but I view it almost like the school and the promotion are like siblings, and
yeah. Well, it's the same. Like, yeah, it's pretty much the same. Like we run Creative Pro shows, so those are shows for at first when I first started, they were like smaller scale, but then obviously with everyone's name increasing, they became bigger and bigger. Like last year, the last one we did was like our most packed one yet. We did that a year ago before every show got shut down. Like it was our most packed one yet. Like like you can train, and then you'll also have opportunities to, like, I'm sure everyone's first match that trained at school was at Creative Pro, especially now. If you watch Cap TV, we were just on IWTV last night. Like there's Cap TV, and then when shows can come back, there'll be Creative Pro shows. So if you're new, like, and you train at Creative Pro, like, there's going to be spots for you on those shows and those tapings. Obviously, not right away, but like, it's not like you will have access to have like your first match on these stages, which is just great.
And what is that like to have Cap TV? Because and then obviously live shows or even pre-tape shows and being on IWTV. Because
Yeah.
I'm a big IWTV guy. I think IWTV is great.
Mhm.
Obviously, we want to talk about Beyond, and they're on there, and a few other
Yeah.
promotions as well. And I just think it makes wrestling more accessible for what it
Yeah.
is, getting in front of a lot more people, Obviously, we're going to talk about COVID, but I'll tip my hat a little bit. I am not so gun ho to go outside, even when
Oh,
everything's
yeah.
completely vaccinated. I'm going
Mhm.
to sort of dip my toe in the water before I jump in the pool.
Mhm.
So I like watching a lot of wrestling
Mhm.
live or premieres and stuff like that. And so for me, I'm
Mhm.
watching the same amount of wrestling, if not more wrestling,
Yeah.
now than I've ever watched before because it's more accessible and it's also more in a safer environment. And I
Mhm.
think there's going to be an opportunity for more people to actually watch wrestling
Yeah.
despite limited attendance. So what is that like? And now that, because let's
So
be real, WWE and AEW and every other promotion is watching indie wrestling because that's where
yeah,
they're pulling from. That's the bullpen.
yeah, of course. Well, like especially now that well, AEW didn't have developmental, but like WWE, obviously, you can see from their developmental, which is now such a bigger thing. Like they can't really use that developmental the same way they used to, where they're like trying guys out. Like they have to, like the indies has pretty much become like a sort of like scouting, like a developmental for them, where they both these companies can look at these guys on IWTV, which the exposure is way bigger than it used to be. They don't have to trade tapes anymore or go send a scout out to a show. Like you just need a subscription, you log on. IWTV is so nice because it's like, there's a fan base just to IWTV itself, where whatever's on, like they'll watch it. Like there's dedicated fans that
I'm one of
whatever's on
those people.
IWTV.
I'm
Yeah,
one of those
whatever's on
people.
IWTV. Oh, there's some new, like that was our first one last night, and we had people like live tweeting Cap TV for the first time. And Cap TV started as a YouTube show that we just did for like just to have it, like with no like, and then it became like the perfect thing when shows shut down because we obviously couldn't have shows. So what can we have besides these tapings in our at our school? So it's just like it was like cool just seeing like people live tweet these matches, which were like great matches, and it sucks that like they weren't able to be on an actual Creative Pro show in front of crowds. But like it was really cool seeing like, oh, like it's on IWTV. Like people are gonna, obviously the Creative Pro friends who already watched it, Cap TV every week on YouTube are gonna watch it. But like there's new people like just live tweeting it for the first time, which we've never had.
So
Like,
what is that like for you? Because obviously, I think Beyond was somewhat like that with Uncharted Territory,
mhm.
which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But this idea that all these new people are now watching it who never heard of Cap TV or Create Pro Wrestling, and yet they love IWTV, and that they might have never heard of who you are, and then they're now tweeting at you, and then they're now finding out who you are, because that's a big brand boost in many ways. It's a big deal.
It's all like, it's all expanding your brand. Like everyone wants as many eyes on them as possible. So like after Beyond, like you hit me up to do this after the Beyond taping. Other people have hit me up after last night of the Cap TV taping. Like if you always want more exposure, always like more eyes on you, different eyes on you. Like obviously you appreciate like the people who are there every week because they're the ones that keep it going, but you want to try and get out to like that. It's the same thing for getting out to new shows with new promotions. Like it's just getting as many eyes on you as possible wherever they are, as far as they are, because I mean, you just have to grow. You have to grow an audience, and you can't do it at one place for one promotion.
And I think IWTV also expands that to now a global stage versus just being a local stage, or even trading, tapes, and the fact that we are in the digitalization pivot, where everything is now on a much larger stage. And so I think that's something that's also really beneficial. And I think also wrestling fans are die hard at this point. And I think, as you were saying, there are IWTV fans. I try to watch as much IWTV as I possibly can. I have a life outside of things. I'm not watching wrestling 24/7.
Yeah, of course.
But there are shows that like, New South just had something on. I don't know anything about New South. I watched it because it was on IWTV. It was on, I think, a Saturday or a Sunday or a Friday. I don't even know anymore, but that's not the point here. But it's the idea that I'm like, oh, if it's on IWTV, it must be good.
Yeah. Well, there's like, just imagine if like COVID and all this happened like 20 years ago for indie wrestling. Indie wrestling would be dead. It would be dead. It'd be nothing. What would they do? Sell DVDs a year later? Like, there'd be nothing. Like, it's honestly like so lucky that all this stuff exists, because indie wrestling has these streaming service not exist, like to do these closed, no fan tapings, like had all this stuff not exist, like I wouldn't have done anything for the last, like what would I have done for the last year? Nothing. What would everyone else have done? Like they could have trained, they could have had matches, but who would like, how would they get noted? How would anything like, what would people watch? There'd be nothing. It'd be just, obviously the big companies would still have it, but for indie wrestling, like, so it's great that all of these things existed to kind of carry it over. And obviously, ideally, there'd be fans, but for the position we were in, like again, like I watched in the studio when for the tag match that aired last night with the Steves versus Phil and Aaron. And I was super into the match. Great match. I was super into it. And I just felt bad. I was like, oh man, dude, if that was in front of like a crowd, like how cool would that have been? But then again, like it aired on IWTV, and now people who watched it who wouldn't have been there for like a live show, who maybe aren't on, haven't gone to a Creative Pro show, and they can see it for the first time. So it's like, it was sad at first, but then it's like, oh, well, how nice is this? Like all these new people got to see this match that wouldn't have otherwise. Like, I don't know. It's just, I feel like it was literally like the only time in wrestling's history where indie wrestling could have survived is this last year when all this stuff was already set up and established.
So to even talk about that, because this is my question, and I'm curious your opinion on it, is that, and I am leaning that I want every show or as many shows to be live streamed as possible. And I don't ever want to go to a non-taped house show ever again. And I don't want it to be, pre-recorded either, because I think that if it can be avoided. And so do you think that that's sort of the new normal, even when we go back to everything in that? Because we're eventually going to go back to normalcy. But do you think that a lot of this stuff is going to be winding up on just streamed on IWTV or under a premiere type of heading or something of that nature? Because that to me seems the answer.
Well,
in many ways, regardless of
yeah, I'd hope, but I don't know. I was always surprised whenever I do an indie show and they weren't taping it. And I know, like, obviously everyone can't have like full setups. Like Creative Pro has GoPro Wrestling come in and they film the whole thing and edit it and everything, or we'll have someone else tape and edit it. But like, I was always surprised when a show wouldn't have like recording or taping of it. It would just be, oh yeah, we're just gonna have the match and that's it. And it's like that's kind of like the old style where it's like endearing in a way to be like, oh yeah, for the people there, like they got to watch the match, like that's cool. But it's still like, yeah, but like you should record it, and every match should be taped, especially now when like you could pull out. I'd rather do just come to ringside, like get if the promoter just got their friend with an iPhone on at ringside and just recorded it. Like I'm like, especially like, how else are you gonna get your promotion to grow than having that, than having these shows out there and growing? Like I know the first few Creative Pro shows we'd have them taped, but like we weren't able to put them anywhere. They were just, we'd have the footage, but like, what are you going to do with it? We'd release some matches on YouTube and that's it. So I would hope everyone, like promotions, would look at this last year and see, oh, like it's worth it to have to shell out the money to have my show recorded and saved and put out to ideally a streaming platform, or if you don't have access to that, YouTube at the very least. Like you have to have that if you're a promotion in 2021. Like you have to put your matches out there.
I mean, I even think that the live aspect, because when something is live, so this is how I view it, is that premieres are cool, and I
Mhm.
appreciate premieres and first time released, but I don't take it as serious as a live
Yeah.
wrestling event. I take it live. When I think of live, I think of football, baseball, basketball.
Mhm.
I'm watching something live. It's here in the moment. Right now we're live. Now, obviously, there's
Yeah.
going to be a replay of this, and it's going to be
Mhm.
constantly up. But there's a difference when somebody's watching it live and they're seeing it in real time. They're seeing all the reactions and they're
Mhm.
getting it directly, because I feel like it means something. And I used to do
Yeah.
pre-recorded stuff, and I
Mhm.
still do a little bit of it. But I definitely like the live aspect of it, because I feel like there's a more importance to it, if that makes
Yeah.
any sense. And so I want to just see a hell of a lot more live stuff, because
Yeah.
also it eliminates the editing. And look, you never know what's going to happen. And then on top of that, all the social media, Twitter stuff,
Mhm.
super valuable, because especially the fact that IWTV fans go crazy on Twitter. And I'm
Mhm.
one of them. I tweet out a
Yeah.
lot. I have almost 70,000 tweets. I guarantee you at least 30,000 of them are wrestling related. So
Probably.
if whoever's looking at me for a job and they see some weird tweets out there saying hit him with the chair, I am not encouraging violence. I am talking about wrestling. I just want
Mhm.
to make that clear out in the air here. But even still, like, I think that's the future in many
Yeah.
ways. I want more companies to go live versus premiere or uploading. And obviously,
Yeah.
I want the back library too up there. Don't, don't,
Mhm.
don't, don't think I don't want the back library either, because I do want that too.
Yeah. You want as much as possible. Like live is always better. I think everyone like I've never met someone who's like, oh no, I prefer tape. Like no one prefers tape. Everyone wants live. They want to feel like you're watching it. Wrestling, like it's different though. The other sports, if I watch, like I'm not gonna watch a basketball game taped. I don't do that. Like if I'm gonna be late to a basketball game, I'm like, oh well, I'm gonna tune in right now. Like I need to watch it right now. So I feel like a lot more people are getting to that with wrestling, where it's like obviously you can go back and watch it, but they want to experience it with everyone, especially in a social media era where like you're talking and reacting in real time with everyone else. Like you want to be living through it with everyone, living through that moment with everyone else at that time. Especially for like you, if you're like super into the community on Twitter of everyone watching these shows, like you want to have it live and you want to have that kind of idea of like, oh, anything can happen right now. Like anything's going on. Like what's going to happen? Like something good can happen. Something bad could happen. Like it's that edge of your seat stuff that you wouldn't get if it's a taping and you're just rewatching it. Like I don't know. I try and stay up and watch like New Japan live, but it's obviously like it's tough when it's like 5 a.m. So I'll watch that taped. But like any other wrestling, like I want to watch it live if I can. Like I want to watch. I don't want to start it late and like miss. Or I want to like be experiencing it live, be experiencing it in the moment, because it's like a lot of this stuff's like a moment in history, and you want to like I can look back when I was like a kid and know like where I was watching like certain big wrestling events live, like what I was doing, what I felt in that moment, how like my friends watching it with me felt, or how other people felt. Like I'll always like remember that stuff, and I think that's like moments like that are so important in wrestling more than like a lot of other TV or media or anything. So yeah, live's always better.
Yeah, and I even think premieres are sort of fit that too, especially if it's the first
Mhm.
time it's debuting. Like Beyond does premieres sometimes, and I think
Mhm.
when that's just first coming out, while it's not live, it's the first time it's airing, and it's
Yeah.
treated very much like it's live. So,
Mhm.
so I think that that sort of falls in under it as well. And
Mhm.
so I just think, I mean, I want live stuff. I enjoy it, and I enjoy wrestling collectively, and I think that IWTV kills it as of
Mhm.
lately. But enough about sort of the inside of the business, and let's talk about the Shook Crew because I
Mhm.
think it's everybody wants to know. 30 minutes into this thing, so obviously we were building up to this. So
Mhm.
obviously it's Max Caster, Bobby Orlando, and you. So how
Yeah.
did this all come about? And what was like the impetus for it and the building of it and the formation of it?
It was as like kind of natural, like spur of the moment as possible. Like we didn't all get together and say, "What if we made a group together? What if the three of us?" We just, me and Max would go to places a lot. We went to like Dojo War, like CCW Dojo Wars together. We'd go to like random like other tapings together. And so we went to do this taping for a YouTube show, and Bobby, who was new at the time, wanted to come with us. So we are like, "Oh, do you want to come like to this YouTube show?" Because obviously we were like friends with him, but we didn't know him like very well yet. So we just kind of brought him, and it was his first match, like his first like taped match for anything, and it was a 6 man with us. And I kind of like we kind of just took a picture of the three of us together and just send to our group chat because it was Bobby's first match. We're like, "Oh, look, Bobby's having his first match." And then I just like tweeted it. I was like, "Oh, I want to tweet this picture of the three of us." Like, and I just tweeted hashtag be shook, which is not something I've ever said before in my life. I never said that, or like that wasn't something I wouldn't say like shook all the time or anything. I just made that the caption. I was just like, hashtag be shook. And I just made that the caption. And I tell the story a lot because it's like, if I just tweeted literally anything else as the caption for that picture, we'd be a completely different group. Like the only thing shook crew came from was me happening to tweet like be shook for that picture. And then I just tweeted that out, and we just started like we were in a group, like we were still wrestling on cap shows separately. Bobby hadn't even debuted yet. Me and Max were wrestling separately, and we just kind of kept just hanging out doing that. And then we made the music video, our first music video we did, which was something me and Max wanted to do like a rap for a while because Max was super into rapping. He'd been making stuff forever, and we always had this idea to do like we wanted to do a cat cipher at one point, which would have been horrible because I don't know who else a cat can rap. But we finally like just made this music video with Bobby, and it got like a lot of views like immediately. Like I think if you look at it now, it's on YouTube. It has like 30 something thousand views or something like that. And it just got a lot, and people were really into it. So we're like, oh, like I mean, that was fun. Like let's just like not even do that again. But we are like, oh, let's just do more stuff together. And it kind of just like grew. We're like, then Brian was like, well, hey, do you guys want to wrestle on this? Like, do you want to wrestle together at Cap? Like, do you want to be a group here? And then he put us the next big show we had at the Coliseum. He just put us in the main event in the 6 man. Uh, and that was it. And then we just became a group from there. It was like not something planned or talked about. It was just kind of me and Max were friends, and then Bobby was with us, and it just kind of organically grew into we became a rap group, which we didn't.
So to even talk about that, because it seems very much, and this also is a common, I think, thread in wrestling, is that sometimes you throw spaghetti at a wall and you see what sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems very much some just like that, where obviously all three of you were gelling, you made something, obviously it did very well on YouTube, people got behind it, it was just like a simple, hashtag that sort of started buzzing, and then obviously you're all thrown into a six man, and it worked type of thing. And obviously, you guys enjoy each other's company, you enjoy hanging out, you understand each other's move sets, you're all friends in real life. So that seems very much what it was like. So what is that like? That it's just almost a perfect storm.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally like throwing spaghetti at the wall. Because if you watch the first music video, it is such an absurdly shot. We are dressed like just whatever we had, like whatever stuff we had at the time. Bobby's in a romper. I'm in like whatever. Like it was just really just having fun and like doing whatever we had with us. And then it kind of like you lock it down more as it goes, where it's like, oh well, let's do this, let's do this. But at first, it was really just throwing everything at a wall and just whatever we wanted to do, and we had no limit or filter on what we wanted to do. It was just kind of us just really just doing what we want. We just had the freedom to just do what we want and just experiment and try stuff out, which is so important early in wrestling. And then over the next few years, we kind of like found more what it was and more what each of us were individually and what we wanted.
We connected on social media, which 5 years ago, social media existed, but it didn't exist to the degree it exists today. 10 years ago, forget about it. Facebook was still a baby. It's that type of thing where now social media is a massive part of indie wrestling. It's a massive part of wrestling collectively. It's a massive part of everybody's life. So I think that's changed it. And also, I think that you also, as the Shook crew, were working with the Breakfast Club at this point. And the two groups had massive feuds. And so for those who don't know, the Breakfast Club is made up of CPA, Baby Girl, maybe not.
Hero to the community.
And obviously Kip Stevens. And so obviously, and you two as groups just went to war with each other. I think you had like 4 or 5 matches. You went for the tag team titles. And I think, you beat them with Max. And then obviously the Freebird rule was in effect with Bobby.
We all love the Freebird rules. Very, very important rule to us, the Freebird rules. It was great.
And so what was that entire rivalry like? Because obviously multiple matches, people from Cap, obviously, really important. Different experiences were all around, and obviously it worked in many ways. And then you got the Freebird rule in play, and a lot of cool stuff going on. So, what was that entire situation like for you?
It was fun. Well, so Cap had just had Cap shows were like still very new. Like Cap shows started with just wrestling shows, no wrestling shows. Then there was the Cap champion, who Max Caster was the first Cap champion. He beat Alex Reynolds in the tournament. So he's the first Cap champion. And then they added the Cap Tag Team Championships, which the first champs were VSK and Dorian Graves Massage Envy at the time. They lost to who they actually beat the team of MJF and Bear Bronson, which is funny. So they beat them. Then Breakfast Club beats them. So the tag titles were still this very new thing where it was like, they're a title, but there's not really a lineage to it yet or anything. It's just kind of Massage Envy won it, and now the Breakfast Club had it. So there hadn't even been like a legit feud over these titles. So it was just fun. Like it was the first time there was like a long like feud over these tag team titles, like to try and like get them going as like a thing and we were like the new team, and Breakfast Club, they'd been teaming for a little bit. And it was just fun, like trying to like just make that into a thing, like have that be something that the fans at Creative Pro were into, which I think they were. We really like tried to put out a lot of like vignettes and promos and everything, like doing that. And some of those I watched those back like a year ago. I like went during quarantine. I was like, oh, let me watch those things we shot, and I still love them. I think they're great. We had like a whole series of trying to get Kip and Nick to turn on each other by putting them in like traps. It was like I just enjoyed making all that, like filming all those, and then obviously having matches at the shows where like it was the first title I won, was the Cap Tag Team titles. So it was like cool in that, like, oh, I won a wrestling title for the first time. And I won it with Max, who's like was like my best friend in wrestling. So it was just really cool overall. And they were fun matches, and we just kind of, it was like a jumping off point for us. It was the first, like, because obviously we had started teaming as Shook Crew, but it was like the first thing we got to like do as Shook Crew. Like first time we got to like have a spot on a show as Shook Crew. So yeah, it was just like cool setting that up and doing like going through all that for the first time, where it was like, oh, like this is the first time we're really trying to establish ourselves. So yeah, I enjoyed it, especially with Nick and Kip, who are fun.
Yeah, and obviously this was your first title, and also I feel that you chasing after this title added legitimacy to the title, and then winning the title, because I think you said it really well. Where at this point the title was new, and there was
Yeah.
no real history and no dominant team, and
Mhm.
obviously Breakfast Club and you chasing it, and it being difficult for you guys, the Shook Crew, to win it, added legitimacy to the title, and then you
Mhm.
hold on to that title, and then you're having several title defenses, obviously against the Even Stevens, Breakfast Club, facing
Mhm.
Spite and,
Oh yeah.
and them, which is Johnny Clash and Liam Davis. And
Mhm.
so, what was that like? And also, the Even Stevens were still in the picture at that point. So obviously, it's kind of a crazy circumstance of what's going on with all
Mhm.
this, and having four-way matches and all sorts of stuff, and
Yeah.
actually having a pretty competitive tag team division at this point in CAP.
Yeah. It was cool. Again, it was just establishing tag team wrestling as something at Creative Pro. And at this point, so me and Max won the titles, but it really transitioned to me and Bobby were kind of like the main tag team, like defending them. So it was also like our first time like figuring ourselves out as a tag team. And we had like the benefit of having like so many like first time things over those next 2 years, like during that title reign and on. Whereas like we were the champions, we got to have our first like three-way tag match or our first four-way tag match. We had a tag cage match against the Even Stevens. Like it was just like a lot of first times and like learning this stuff. And I feel like we did like I'll go back and watch those matches. Like we did a good job of starting this tag team division at Creative Pro. Like the triple threat tag we had with Breakfast Club and the Even Stevens main evented a cap show, and that was, I think it was my second time main eventing a cap show. But it was the first one was the 6 man. It was the first time like us as a tag team for the tag titles main evented a cap show, which was cool because it was like the tag titles were the last match on the show, and it was just like making that for ourselves, obviously, but for because obviously we care about Creative Pro as its own like brand, its own shows, like having that be a thing where it's like, oh yeah, like there's this thriving tag team division and there's these good tag teams at Creative Pro. And if you watch a tag team match at Creative Pro, you're gonna enjoy, you're gonna have a good time. And I mean, I think we did a good job. Like you could look at the tag teams now. Again, I go back to the Steves versus Phil and Aaron that aired on IWTV. That was a great match. And that was like, it's just cool seeing like, if even though me and Bobby aren't really tagging right now at Creative, we still tag sometimes, but like it's cool seeing like other teams. Like we don't need to tag. Like there's these other teams now that are able to continue having these great matches at Creative Pro shows. So it was just cool having that, like developing that for Creative Pro going forward. So yeah.
And then obviously the Spite stuff was great, and then
Oh
also
yeah.
getting to face Brian Myers and Mark Sterling
Yeah.
for the titles too.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I got to finally wrestle. We wrestled them 2-on-2, and I wrestled Brian 1-on-1 on Cap TV, which like that's cool stuff. I got to wrestle my trainer twice in his first matches back at Creative Pro, back on the Indies. So yeah, there's just like there were so many cool opportunities that happened there. And now you can look at Brian and Mark are the champions right now, and they're defending it at the Major Pod show on WrestleMania weekend against Bear Country, the AEW like tag team Bear Country, and these two teams are wrestling for the Creative Pro Tag Team Championships, and that's cool. It's like exactly what we wanted it to grow into. Like where it's like at first it was just kind of, oh yeah, it's these Creative Pro Tag Teams, and now it's like these names, like everyone knows Brian Myers, Kurt Hawkins, like everyone who watches AEW knows Bear Country now, and they're fighting for these tag titles, and everyone knows the lawyer Mark Sterling. So like, yeah, it's like it's cool seeing it like grow into that, and hopefully it continues to grow like that.
Yeah, and I think also you have grown a lot because even going out of Cap, I mean, we could talk about the match that you have with Melina and the Undressed Express, and that was cool with Rick.
That was my 6th grade dream match. So yeah, very cool. Wrestling Melina. 6th grade me would be very hype.
And so that was cool, and I love Melina, and I still love Melina, and I think Melina is great.
She's like really good. Yeah, like I feel like a lot of like
underrated, underappreciated.
I was like talking to her about like I feel like a lot of people kind of like write like people like her, like I feel like divas from that era get as much as like it's cool how women's wrestling's like grown now, but like I feel like a lot of people like to kind of write off like, oh yeah, weren't they so bad back then? And it's like you could talk to Melina, she's really smart. Like she really knows like how to get like a reaction from the crowd. Like she really knows what she's doing, and I really respect her as like I've talked to her about like matches that I've had. Like I really respect her opinion, and I think she is like really underrated and really good, and doesn't get enough respect for that.
I think this is my view on her, is that I think that during that time she was arguably more at the top of the list versus the bottom of the list as far as talent. But I also think that she was put into a box with every other woman from the Diva era of wrestling. That is just unfortunate, where there was only so much she could do. And she had some great matches, and she is beyond flexible. And those splits are not, BS. I mean, that is some serious flexibility.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying on that point. So that's all I'm going to say. But speaking about other stuff, you got to also invade WSU with.
We did do that, didn't we? I forgot about that one.
And let me explain. Let me explain. So obviously Penelope Ford was supposed to be there. She was replaced by Bobby Ocean, and then Maria Manic was apparently Bobby Ocean's new partner, or Bobby Ocean was Maria Manic's new partner. And obviously you're now in WSU, and everybody knows WSU tends to be a women's promotion. So what was that like? And Maria Manic is a beast.
They hit us up for it. We were doing CZW at the time, and obviously it was like the sister promotion to CZW, and they hit us up to do this match, and we're like, are you sure? Like I don't know if you noticed, but you're running a women's promotion, and
it's only a little minor detail. It's a minor detail, right?
I personally, I'm not a woman. I'm not. Like Bobby is not either. But I mean, that's what they wanted. And we wrestled Maria Manic. I had fun with the match. I enjoyed wrestling for WSU. It was a one-off. It was the only time we wrestled for them. But I don't know. I guess that's an interesting thing. We reverse broke the glass ceiling. Like we jumped down through the glass ceiling, I guess, and invaded the other. I'm sure a lot of women's wrestlers can look proudly on the time, like, oh, I was the first woman to do this on this men's show, or the first women's cage match, or first women's whatever. And we were like, yeah, we were the men that were at WSU, for better or worse. But I had fun with the match, so I'm glad it happened. Everyone was super nice to us, despite the circumstances. So, yeah, I mean, I don't regret it at all. I had a fun time.
It was a trying time, and you persevered throughout the entire situation. You made many sacrifices in the match. I could tell to be there and to power troop in through the glass ceiling.
Oh yes, it was very, very brave. And Maria is very scary. She definitely can throw me around. She's a large individual.
She's very scary, and I don't know her, and I am very scared of her in many, many ways. I'm
I
just
mean,
going to
should
leave
be.
it at that.
Hopefully.
So having talking about this, obviously, since you mentioned CCW, let's talk about that Chris Stradlander, Brandon Kirk, DJ Hyde, and
Mhm.
Casey Cattell match, which I think wrestled
Yeah.
them twice, and then Young Dumb and Baroque, which is Charlie
Mhm.
Tiger, Ellis Taylor, and Jordan Oliver, also on a separate occasion. And this was a pretty intense, crazy match. And Casey
Yeah.
spoke about it.
Oh, did she? What? Wait, Casey spoke about this match? Which
To
match?
some degree, a long time ago.
The Young
She
Dumb
mentioned
Broke
certain
match?
things about this match that happened because I have a feeling it
Yeah.
was rather violent. Is a
Oh,
good way to
well,
put it.
so the first one we had was the 6-man where me, Kristen, Bobby against the three of them. And it was supposed to be me, Bobby, and Max, but we're far enough removed now that I can probably just say this. Max had a WWE tryout that weekend. So he couldn't do the show. So it
There
was
goes
replaced.
my job tomorrow to them. But anyhow, continue.
Yeah. So it was Kristen replaced her, and it was our first CCW match at Asbury Park. Is like one of the coolest venues in wrestling. It really is like a sweet setup. So it was the first time we wrestled for CCW, and it was like kind of the calm. I guess not the culmination because Max wasn't there, but like we had been shooting, and this was like early Shook Crew. Like we've been shooting these like invade CCW videos, which were us really going for like this invasion, like going for making this into a thing ourselves and like committing to it, editing it ourselves, like coming up with the ideas ourselves and shooting it. And we were very much not liked by CCW fans at all when we came out there, like very angry, a lot of vitriol there. They said very mean things to me when I was on the floor hurt. So, I mean, it was just a cool atmosphere for us because that's like what we wanted. We wanted to legitimately have every CCW fan despise us, and we tried our best to do that, and that was cool. And then the Young Dumb Broke match, which those guys are all really good. They were all Jordan had been around for longer, but the rest of them were like newer. I think DJ got in like a car accident that morning or some some shit. DJ like had a car accident or something, so he didn't get there until like right before. But I mean, that match was a cluster, and then whatever. Wait? Which one did Casey speak about? Did she speak about that one or the first one?
I'm not sure, and I don't want to misquote Casey because it's been a while.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Casey,
the second one was like it was like a 3-way tag with two. It was like 2 on 2 on 3 on 4, something like that. It was like I don't know, really remember. I think it was like 4 members of Young Dumb Broke versus like 2 of us versus like 3 of DJ. It was like some crazy
it
thing.
was there was a 9-man tag. That
Yeah,
was crazy.
was it 9? Yeah, it was like
And then there
a
there
lot.
was the one that was more tame was not the 9-man tag. I can
Yeah,
explain it that way
yeah,
from what I remember and what I've
yeah.
researched. And all I know is that Casey basically puts anything with CCW. She's like, I prayed before.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was lucky enough that I didn't get murdered at any point during this. I know Kristen got psycho driver through a chair by Brandon at that first one, which was nasty looking at the time, like very scary. I was luckily okay. She was luckily okay. Bobby, as much as he tries to not be okay, he was also okay. So we survived, and then we went to Tournament of Death. And Bobby. Okay, Bobby was trying to get into Tournament of Death. He wanted to be in Tournament of Death, and they didn't let him in Tournament of Death. So then we show up at Tournament of Death, and he gets light tubes and splashed onto a barbed wire chair. And I was lucky to not get hit with any of those things. So I survived the Tournament of Death. Bobby won because he didn't die. So he technically won the Tournament of Death, which we're very proud of him to this day. So yeah, CZW was like fun and also like super scary because I don't want to do that. I don't want to get hit with a light tube. I'm sorry.
What is that like? Because some people love deathmatch wrestling and others don't.
Dude,
It seems that Bobby likes it, and it seems like
yeah.
you don't. And look,
I mean, some people are into it. Yeah, whatever you're
getting
into,
carved,
like
yeah, getting carved with a light tube does not seem like a fun activity. You
it's not
know,
for me, man. Not my. It's not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea. That one. It's like I mean, I never grew up that into like deathmatch wrestling. Like a lot of people grew up like watching these videos on YouTube. I was never like that into that, so I feel like that's part of it. If you had just been grown up into it, but like Bobby's into all that stuff, so he was all about like, yeah, let's do this hardcore thing, whatever. I'm more like I'm fine with hardcore matches. I don't want to get carved with a light tube. I just don't personally. Not saying I will never get carved with a light tube or anything like that, but if I could hide somewhere under a blanket or something while it happens and avoid it, I will do that. So people can say that's soft. I don't care. I'm still gonna hide. I'm gonna run away. I'll hide behind Bobby and he can do it if he wants, but not my thing. Although I'll probably get sucked into it at some point, as everyone does.
but what I like about CCW, and I don't know everything with CCW. I'm not a big CCW fan per se, just because it just never came across my desk. And when they got onto IWTV, they had all their shit. Ask Lufisto, 45 minutes shooting on them on this show. Kid you
Oh,
not,
fun.
45 minutes straight up shooting on them.
It's a long
Amazing
time.
interview. Makes me love Lufisto to death. Which might not be technically an appropriate thing to say, considering that Lufisto is one of the best death wrestlers ever, and she's crazy, she's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I love Lufisto. My point is that CCW also doesn't do hardcore matches, and they do just sort of straight up wrestling too, which is a nice touch. And I kind
Mm-hmm.
of like that, where you can go from a hardcore barbed wire match to something a lot more tame, and I think it
Mm-hmm.
elevates it very nicely. And like I'm a big ICW fan, and I would appreciate that if they did do a hardcore match in the middle of a deathmatch show. That would be
Yeah.
cool to me because
Mm-hmm.
that would be a fu to
Mm-hmm.
everything, and it would also make everybody appreciate deathmatch wrestling. I think it would actually help the
Yeah.
entire pacing of the show is
Mm-hmm.
not to use chairs and have straight up wrestling in the
Yeah.
middle of the show. I think it would be a brilliant move by Danny D'Amato. So, and CCW does that very well, in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
so I like that about CCW
Yeah.
a lot.
But we had that with our last show we did for them was Max wrestled Brandon in like a hardcore death match type match. Uh, with like, they used staple guns and chairs and everything possible. They used that. And then me and Bobby wrestled Massage Force in just a straight up tag match. No weapons, no anything, just straight up tag match. So it was like, and we, at the time, I remember us both being very happy. Us being happy with Max's match and Max and us being happy with the tag match. And they're two different type of matches. There's the hardcore one and the straight up one. And just like being happy with both. And that's kind of like how wrestling works. Like as much as you can diversify your show with different types of things, it keeps the whole thing interesting. No one wants to watch the same thing over and over. There's like a place for all types of matches on a show if you can have it. And I think a lot of promoters are learning that now.
And to even talk about that, because obviously when Max comes out to face Brandon Kirk, he's representing the Shook Crew at
Mm-hmm.
that show. And then you and Bobby are also representing. And so from a brand position, and I know that obviously Max in that position is also representing Max, and you guys are representing both of you in that tag match. But at the same time, what is that like? Just to show that, hey, the Shook Crew can do hardcore and deathmatch style,
Mm-hmm.
and then you guys could also do straight up tag style because it obviously affects the brand. And I
Yeah.
know that's sort of inside business a little bit, but it
No,
is important to show that a little bit.
I mean,
Well,
with the best thing about Shukra, and we've always said this, was that like there's no like real. I mean, we all have our individual stuff, but it all serves the brand as a whole. Like Max's success is my success. Like my success is Bobby's success. Bobby's is Max's. Like we are a unit, like completely. So anything like so like that, especially at that time, like Max showing he could do that, and me and Bobby showing we can have this great just normal tag team match on the same show. It all goes together to just show we can do whatever position you need, like whatever you need from whatever you want to see, whatever position we're in, we're gonna thrive in that position. And I'm pretty confident, especially now, I'm pretty confident in that, even though that was our last CCW show. But either way, I think we proved that night, because I still, especially for where we were at the time, I think those were both like good matches for where we were, and now it would be even better.
And then jumping out of CCW, and let's talk about Blitzkrieg, because I like Blitzkrieg as of lately. I just got introduced to them, sort of came across my desk as something that I sort of can't talk about just yet with them. Let's give you an idea.
Is it a secret? I think I know what it is. Whatever, continue.
I'm pretty sure I could talk about it. I just don't want to, because I don't want to get in trouble. And I also want it to be somewhat of a surprise, because the person it's involving doesn't know yet either. But anyhow, that should give enough clues of what we're talking about here. But obviously you faced a bunch of interesting teams here. And you faced the Battery or Batari. Batiri. I give up.
Don't feel bad. I didn't know how to pronounce it either at first. It's
Harlow's team. It's Harlow O'Hara's team, pretty much, right?
Yeah, face paint.
And then also in them is the House of Hardcore, which was Shazza McKenzie and Tommy Dreamer, which is the more important team in this entire circumstance. So obviously, and is the House of Hardcore, and you were with Max on this team. So what was that like?
That was, that was cool. Like Tommy Dreamer, everyone knows who Tommy Dreamer is. I don't think you're like everyone. If you know ECW, obviously you know Tommy Dreamer. It was cool wrestling, and Shaz is cool too.
She was on my show too.
Oh, was she? Yeah, Shaz is great, and it was just like fun wrestling, especially our trainer Brian loves Tommy Dreamer, because he's huge in ECW, so he loves Tommy Dreamer. So we kind of it was just cool having anytime you can wrestle a name guy or an old guy, it's an older guy from back in the day, or a guy who has done so much,
who still has it. Let's
and he's still because the genius never goes away, and Tommy Dreamer is probably a legit genius. He knows everything to do. Everything he has to do, everything other people have to do. He can make the match as he can make what you watch as good as it can possibly be. So it was cool having him there and getting to talk to him after, and just having him talk about you and what he sees in you, what can help you in your career. That stuff's always invaluable. And it's and Blitzkrieg actually has had, it's funny because the two experience I've had with that at Blitzkrieg was Tommy Dreamer telling me what he thought, and then Raven, his arch enemy, at a different show, telling me what he thought. So literally at Blitzkrieg, I had Tommy Dreamer and Raven at separate shows give me their opinions. So it's that stuff's cool. That's always good to get as much knowledge from those guys as possible, because you're not going to be able to we're lucky at Cap where we have Brian there, and Brian will bring in other people will show up at Cap sometimes to give their opinion, Brian's friends, other name guys. But anytime you can get it, especially if they're watching you work, it's just you definitely want to hear from them if they want it. Especially if they're I want to watch, I want to talk to you about it after, or I want to talk to you about it now. That's always great. So I appreciate that.
And then also the other team I want to talk about in the other match is the East Coast Bastard Crew, which was Jeremy Leary and Logan Black. And obviously Jeremy Leary in the last 2 years is killing it. Logan is always good. And Logan, I think, is one of the unsung heroes on the indies in many ways, because that guy is super consistent. And then also DL Hurst is another good name to drop.
I love DL.
And Travis Huckabeen's been around forever too at this point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, the group at Blitzkrieg is fun. Like you're gonna have like a fun time wrestling there, and it's great now. I mean, like spoiler alert for the next Blitzkrieg show. There's a lot of cat people on it, but like it's fun obviously having like all the people from Creative Pro like on the show. But it's just like nice. I mean, it's a great group. Like it's a great locker room. It's fun. No one's like an asshole to each other or anything. It's just like I mean, it's a nice group. I've had fun. I always had fun at Blitzkrieg. I never left Blitzkrieg like, man, that sucked, or like, oh, why'd I come to Blitzkrieg? It was always a good time. So yeah, Blitzkrieg. I'm very happy it's coming back again.
Yeah, May 7th, right?
Yes, I'm a horrible. I'm a horrible booked wrestler if I don't know the date. But yeah, I would hope so. It's the first week of May.
It's
the first
May,
week of May. Yeah.
It's May 7th. It's like 20 miles away from Hartford, I think, because I now live in Connecticut, and I have no desire to go to that show because I am not fully vaccinated yet, and I am not stepping into the entire pool. I have to dick
insider. This is my vaccination card. You can't see it on the thing.
I'm not eligible yet for it. It's not that I'm anti-vaccination. I am legit eligible. It's a problem. It's a legitimate problem.
Yeah. Well, the initial role, I was like scheduling mine. I got into it because I do teaching. So I was I think like the second group let in after the first wave, and even scheduling that was like such a hassle at first. Like, so I'm happy now it's getting more on track, but yeah.
Just to give an example here, my parents who are older just got their first shot like a week and a half ago.
Same. My mom just got hers.
Yeah. And I'm 28. I don't know how old you are, but obviously my parents are significantly older than 28. So obviously it's going to take a little bit of time. So it's not. I want to clear the air. I'm not anti-vaccination. It's legitimately I am not eligible.
Yes.
So that's the problem. That's why I'm not going to that show. But I will be happy to watch it.
Yeah. Whenever it comes out. I'm pretty sure it's being released. I would hope on. I think they usually release on IWTV. I'm pretty sure. So. Yeah,
so I'm very excited for that.
There's a lot of cool stuff on that show. So
a lot of cool people are going to be on that show too.
Yeah. I mean, Brian got announced for it. I know I said that. Brian got announced for it. Max is on it. It's one of Max's indie dates. So like, yeah, if you go to that Blitzkrieg show or if you watch the Blitzkrieg show live, you're going to see some great wrestlers on it. I can guarantee that.
So I'm super stoked for it. But having said all that, and we mentioned Limitless and how that drive was a road, and obviously you got to face the mainstay posse, which is Aiden, Arago, Alexander Lee, and Danger Kid, or the Danger Kid, as it used to be known. And obviously, whole Shook Crew was up there. So what was that like being up at a Limitless show before? They were doing their fanless stuff.
That was so fun. That actually, the 2-year anniversary of that show just came up on my time hop the other day. And it was wild looking at the card is insane if you look at it now. Like it was wild. It was Darby Allin versus Teddy Hart. MJF won the Limitless title. Like you can go through the card. I think like every match besides 2 had a now signed talent in the match, which it's great looking back on it. But then like that show was like such a crazy atmosphere. It was in this giant armory, packed out. Limitless really like has a dedicated, strong fan base there. Packed out, super loud crowd, super into everything. Just like great atmosphere to have it. And then we had such a fun match against Main State, who were great. And we did one of our best diss tracks before that we did a Back to the Yard music video on the Main State Posse, which was like one of our most well received ones and one of our favorites. So we had this great music video going into it. Match was super fun. And the atmosphere and crowd was great. So nothing but good things there at Limitless. Limitless was a fun time.
So what was it like to face MSP? Because MSP's been around. Obviously, they are a big tag team up in the New England area. And so obviously it's a little bit, not to sound, cliche, but that's outside of your territory per se, where you wrestle. But to come in and get one of the people in that territory, one of the main tag teams that has a lot of respect and a lot of, fan base, and to go into their home and sort of challenge them and their promotion
And
And
you can tell when they came out how loved they were in that building. Like that place was super into them, and like rightfully so. They're all like they're great wrestlers. They look cool. They're nice guys. Like they're from that area. Like why wouldn't this crowd love them? Like it was super. Like there's nothing better than like if you're in a new place, like going against someone that's like that place is like guy, like one of their like one of the, where like the crowd there, like it's one of their favorite people. And Main State was definitely like Limitless is like one of their like close to their heart guys, like all of them. So I mean, it was just great. It was a lot of fun, like having that loud, gigantic crowd for this match of ours and against such a fun, good team. Like, yeah, nothing but good. Those guys are so good. I love both of them. And now they have even cooler gear. You see these pictures they're taking? They have these like HD like photos they're posting. They look so cool. Like, yeah, I love Main State. They're great.
yeah, no, I think Danger Kid, the opening, hi, I'm Danger Kid. And last season we were without a champion. And Anthony Green has moved on to greener pastures.
Oh,
And,
yes.
and then he opens up the road, and it's so good. It's like I just want him to do all my intro work from here on out. Like we'll just put a picture of him and say, "This is Conversations in Pop Culture." Last episode.
Yeah, dude, I want to wrestle them again. I hope we can because we're even better now than we were then. Like and I'm sure they're also better now than they were then. And we were supposed to wrestle them coming up, but the show got canceled. So hopefully somewhere else happens where me and Bobby can wrestle the two of them again.
Just go down the road. Just make a
show
show about that.
Down the road. Yeah, we'll see.
And so to jump into the final thing I want to talk about, and that's sort of Beyond, because Beyond has been interesting to you in many ways. You've been in 2 tournaments for tomorrow, one in 2018 against Massage Force, which is Dorian Gray and VSK, and that was with Max. And so obviously that's a cool tournament, and that has a lot of really good people in it, usually from like the New England area. And then obviously the one that just recently happened, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and that was against Espermera, I want to say. Or I'm probably getting the name wrong.
Ephemera, I think.
Ephemera. Wow, I can't read today.
They changed their name, so don't feel bad. It's a new name, Ephemera, with Edith Surreal.
And St. Jackson Dupont.
Yeah, St. Jackson Dupont, who they changed their names to. This isn't our. They can't be mad at us for this. They're the ones that changed their names.
Legitly, they changed their names like 3 minutes before the match. The match was advertised as something else.
Oh, do you think that's crazy? Try being in the ring where you hear that their name changed. We're literally like, me and Bobby, like they're like for the first time at Ephemera. Me and Bobby look at each other like, what?
So let me get this straight, and we might be breaking some rules here, but that was like a last minute thing, right? That wasn't.
No, I have no idea. I didn't talk to them about.
Didn't Rich was announcing, right? Rich Palladino was announcing.
Yeah, Rich was announcing.
I don't think he even knew at that point.
I certainly didn't know. I had no idea. But yeah, they just announced them as Ephemera.
I was confused. I think everybody else was confused. Everybody was like, what the hell's going on here? And then also it was just like, what? Like massively confused. But
how do you spell that? I don't know. I don't know. Like I didn't talk to them before about it. I didn't talk to them after about it. It's kind of like, I mean, it's your name, I guess, if that's what you want. If you want to rebrand and have that, like, it's better to just rip the Band-Aid off and do it, I guess, and just have the switch, especially like the name was Still Life with Apricots and Pears, and then it changed to Ephemera. So I guess it's easier to say, despite all that. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I get that probably the same thing as we were saying about Shukru, like just having the freedom just to one day say, you know what, like I'm changing the name, changing our tag team name. Like it's all going to be new, where we have this new vision. And I know that those two are very like visionary based people. So they're like really like care about that kind of aspect of it. So it's probably just something they decided. I don't know. I certainly didn't decide
And
it.
so, what was that like, though, having that match? Because obviously, formerly known as Abercrombie Still Up in Pairs, became
Mm-hmm.
Edith Surreal, and Edith Surreal is killing it. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's safe to say on the Indies, and
Mm-hmm.
she's awesome in many ways, and she's going to be one of the breakout superstars of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And St. Jackson Dupont.
I saw a tweet that said she was Bryan Danielson level. I was like, wow, people really love her. It was like Edith Surreal
Yeah.
is Daniel. It was like Edith Surreal is Daniel Bryan level good, and I was like, wow, they love it because you invoke Daniel Bryan. Like, wow, yeah, they're clearly.
You wake him out and you pull a GameStop short on Daniel Bryan's position with Edith Surreal right there on that one. So clearly, don't worry, you'll return Daniel Bryan for his match at Fastlane this Sunday.
Oh
Anyhow,
yeah, we got to wrestle Bryan Danielson for a night. It was fun. But yeah, I mean, fun time. Wish we would have murdered them and beat them, but we didn't. But yeah, it's fun wrestling because our first Beyond match was the tournament for tomorrow, which we had fun, but it was like not we weren't happy with it at the time with ourselves on it. So it was cool, like coming back to the tournament again and having this match that we were proud of despite losing, and just being able to like show how far we came from the first tournament tomorrow that we went to now. And yeah,
and also what I feel is that this entire concept Beyond is back, the Beyond Signature Series. Obviously, it's not uncharted territory. It's sort of, I guess, and not to sound mean about it, but it's almost a band-aid until Beyond Uncharted territory come back for season
definitely, yeah. Yeah,
four.
it was like it was the best that Beyond could do under the circumstances. Because obviously, Beyond the summer of last year, Beyond was able to get some shows going on the boardwalk. Like they were able to do that. Not as easy to do in the wintertime. Outdoor shows aren't a thing in the Northeast in the wintertime unless someone wants to freeze. So it was just kind of Drew and all them had to figure out like, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to keep Beyond going in the meantime? And they had this idea and they pretty much got the best possible people they could to come and tape the Signature Series. And I mean, I think three of the episodes are out now and there's 3 more to come. And there's good matches. There's really good matches on these shows. Like Beyond really like really put their stamp where like Beyond's not going anywhere. Beyond's going to be a thing in indie wrestling going forward. Like,
and I also think that one of the things about these shows is that they've done the greatest round robin rivalries, which is a big draw. They have, I guess, the singles tournament for tomorrow stuff going on. I think that's what it is, right?
Yeah, it's the round robin series with those 4 guys, Mikowski, Dickinson, and Yuta,
and Tony Deppen,
and then they did the tournament for tomorrow, which is the tag team one. The round robin, like I mean, I'm probably going off track here, but Yuta is like so good. Like Wheeler Yuta, it's like such a great wrestler. Like,
and one of the things that I like about this, and this is going to sound messed up, and I know it's going to come out disrespectful to somebody who's listening and sees this, but one of the things that I find the round robin to be the biggest draw on that thing. I don't find the tournament for tomorrow, not saying it's not good wrestling. I enjoy watching all these people wrestle, but I am way more interested in seeing Wheeler Yuta, Matt Murkowski and Dickinson go at it. Tony Deppen, Matt Murkowski, Tony Deppen, Chris Dickinson go at it. Wheeler Yuta and Chris Dickinson going at it. Like, I'm more interested in that because I feel like there's no consequence, and we're just seeing amazing wrestling, and we're seeing people who have pushed each other so far. And I think Beyond has legitly cracked the code on how to build the wrestling, because I'm here for X, but I'm staying for Y.
Yeah. I mean, the round robin's like the main event, right? It's the main, like, this is a thing in wrestling. It's not like, I don't think it's insulting to the other people on the show. Like, that's how wrestling's worked forever, where it's the main event is the main event. It's the draw. Like, people are going to see John Cena, and they see the rest of the show. People are going to see Stone Cold, and then they see the rest of the show. So, like, yeah, this round robin tournament with 4 of the best wrestlers on the indies, like, of course that's going to get people into it. This is like everyone loves the G1, and like that's a round robin tournament. This is like a mini Beyond G1 with those 4 guys, and they're all going to wrestle each other, and they're all going to have great matches with each other, and you're going to get one every single episode. And then like who wouldn't watch that? That's a fan of current indie wrestling. And then obviously, and then there's the rest of the show, like, and you're going to have good matches and interesting matches for the rest of the show. But like, yeah, I don't think that's weird to say the main event in this big tournament is like what's going to suck people in, and that's fine because they're going to get sucked into that and then see the rest of the show and see like find out what everyone else has to offer, which is good.
And so that's how I view it, and people can take it however they want to take my opinion on it, because I'll be honest, I would rather just watch 30 minutes of the round robin tournament straight up. I would rather watch Iron Man matches for all 6 weeks with all these guys. That would be
and I wouldn't be on the show, Andrew. I wouldn't be on the show if there was an hour. So you say you want 5 episodes of Iron Man matches, and then the last show they'll do a 40-minute Iron Man match, and the other 20 minutes will be me and Bobby.
I'm right? Okay with that deal.
Okay,
I'll sponsor the 20 minutes just for you.
We'll do a halftime show. They can do 20 minutes of an Iron Man. Have you ever done like a split Iron Man match where there's a halftime in the middle? Maybe we'll do that. That's what we'll do. We'll be the halftime show.
Let's figure out how we would book this match, because clearly this is what we should do. Here's what we'll do. We'll have a 30-minute Iron Man match, and you have to do rock, paper, scissors, shoots for 10 minutes in the middle of the match.
Yeah, you split it up. It's like halftime. As scores carry over, and then you do the neck, everyone chills. I know they did that for the Kenny Omega Okada 2 out of 3 falls. They had like breaks. They had like a 5-minute break between each of the falls. So maybe we'll run that. Yeah,
I think this would be an amazing match concept where and your rock paper scissors counts to your pinfalls.
I mean, it could happen. People are into concept like this. They just had a 2-hour fucking Jordan the Psychopath had a 2-hour Iron Man match, which wow. I can't imagine wrestling for 2 hours. So irrespective of Jordan.
There's something wrong with Tony Deppen and Jordan Oliver. So
did you watch all 2 hours of that match?
I did watch all 2 hours.
You watched the whole thing?
After an hour and a half, I was sort of done, and I was like watching in the background.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love watching Jordan. So, but 2 hours for anyone is like crazy to me. Like
it was pretty intense, and after about 90 minutes, I think it was getting stale. I think they should have gone on. I think that match should have ended 30 minutes earlier.
Who knows, man? I don't know. 2 hours. I don't know how I'd wrestle for 2 hours. I don't know anyone. But now they're gonna do like clearly the next step is someone's gonna do 3 hours, and then someone's gonna do 4 hours, and it's just gonna keep going. I think Chris Hero one time wrestled for 24 hours. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's I think he did like a charity like gauntlet or something, and he wrestled for like 24 hours or some shit, like, or some long extended time.
That is insane.
That's crazy. Well, if he'd be the guy to do it, obviously, but yeah, I don't know how you wrestle. I've never done an Iron Man match, 20 or 30 minutes. So
I'm gonna put you on the spot because you weren't at Fight Forever, right?
No.
What did you think of Fight Forever? Because I'll start first, and I'm not bashing GCW by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought it was a lot to consume. And I love the concept. I love the fact that they raised a lot of money, and a lot of it went to wrestlers and stuff like that. But I thought 24 hours was way too much, and I think people became brain dead because of it. Like I didn't watch wrestling for 2 weeks afterwards. I was done, and I watched about 16 hours of it.
I think the way to consume that, and I didn't watch the show, but I think the way to consume that would be the cool part is you could tune in at any time and see a great match going on, rather than sitting there for 24 straight hours and watching the whole thing. So, I mean, the way I would have consumed it if I was a fan would just be, oh yeah, let me tune in, see what's happening. Just kind of like tuning into IWTV and seeing what's on. Like, oh, let's see who's wrestling right now. But yeah, I mean, 24 hours of anything. Like, who can make 24 hours of anything and like have it the entire time be, oh yeah, I'm still as up as I can be. Like people talk about like WrestleMania for like 7 hours, how people are like dead at the end of it. Like 24 hours, Jesus, like who knows? So I don't know. They GCW loves going for it, and you can't take that away from them. Like they love just pushing the envelope as much as possible.
I think it's brilliant, and I think it proves a point, though, that you can now do stuff like this, and now it is competitive on, okay, you run a 24-hour show. People are going to watch a lot of it, and you can build a lot of content pretty cheaply. Because once you have a wrestling ring set up, it doesn't take much to throw a bunch of wrestlers in there and also move people in and out. I mean, you could do a lot of stuff with this. And I got 15 ideas off the top of my head in a particular location that would be insane to do. And I'm keeping it locked up for a reason because you never know when I'm going to create a promotion. But I want to rival everybody. I'm a very competitive person, and I might tell you off the air what I want to do, and you might approve.
Are you running a 25-hour show? 24 hours in 1 minute show?
2-hour show in less time, technically. So we'll leave it at that. We're going to do the time
warp it.
We're going to do time warp. Let's go with that. And don't worry, we will all dance. We will all dance.
Do a 24-hour show, but just have it all at once and have just like 20 rings in the venue, and just people just go watch whatever. It's the whole 24-hour show, but you just pick which one you want to watch, and that's it.
So we'll do it, and then we'll set up the camera so you have 20 squares, so you can watch all.
Yeah. It's a Zoom call. It's a Zoom call with wrestling. You just click which one you want. Like, that looks like it's cool.
That'd be a brilliant concept. Or you could put it all into little 20 panels, and you could watch every single match on a miniature thing and on your computer all at once. And so in an hour, you consume and each match is 20 minutes. So you consume so much wrestling in your head at once. It's like shooting it up into your blood.
Dude, that's tough. It reminds me of like I always thought like it'd be a cool concept to do like how like they have musical festivals where there's different stages with different bands on each one, like doing that for wrestling where there's like a bunch of rings. It's a festival and there's a bunch of rings and you pick like, Dickinson and Yuta are wrestling at 8 over there, but if you go over there, there's the second half of the 3-hour Iron Man match is going to finish like in, I don't know. I think that would be like a cool thing.
Or what you do is that you set up 4 rings and you put the audience in the center.
Oh, and they turn their chairs. They swivel.
And then, so now what you do is that nobody has to leave, and you can't leave, and then you have all 4 matches going on at the same time.
That'd be so stressful. Yeah. I'm just imagining.
But what's crazy, what you could do technically, and this is sort of my idea, is that if all of a sudden you have that, but then let's say you have Tony Deppen versus Dickinson, right? But then you have a big card. So you have 4 different promotions running with all the same wrestlers. You think it's funny, but this is so brilliant. Because then all of a sudden, let's say Tony Deppen and Chris Dickinson have a 30-minute match. And you have a 3-hour card. In half an hour, Tony Deppen is going to be in ring A when he came from ring B. Or better yet, what you could do is that all of a sudden you could put Tony Deppen, as soon as they finish their match, they got to run over to ring B and do a
sprint over.
And then the people from C are also in that tag team match against them. And then in the middle of it, they're running, and then you could have the bell ring. And let's say that, a match isn't finishing, and then they got to make it to the ring, and you can make such a crazy situation. And meanwhile, they'll all be streamed on IWTV. And now you actually have a real position.
That sounds really like that's something GCW is going to do for their next clusterfuck match. Is they're going to have 4 rings going on or something. They're like this is all stuff that like GCW is probably gonna do at some point. They just love just trying new ideas and just fucking going
So, so,
for it.
so
So
that,
I wouldn't be
that,
surprised if there's a 4-ring show at some point where
So
they're
that's
just
my idea.
yeah.
Right then and there is to put it in that position because I just think you can do so much with it and you could generate so much content. And then what you do is you do that with a 24-hour show. And so now you're just pushing it all the way. It's how far can we go is the question.
Dude. I mean, it's gonna happen at some point, probably. I'm sure. Everyone's
I'm going to
just
be the booker on it. That's what's going to happen.
good luck. Good luck booking that one. That's gonna be tough. That's gonna be a
I have
hard
it
one to
all
organize.
mapped out. I have it all mapped out. I'm going to hire a bunch of comic writers to handle it. So don't worry.
Dude. Like booking normal wrestling shows is stressful enough. I can't imagine doing this for.
Don't worry. I got to figure it out.
I believe in you.
I'm going to get a bunch of my comic book friends to write the entire thing. And then imagine the sponsorship opportunity. Oh, it's going to be great. I mean, just alone on the sponsorships. Ooh. I'm going to make so much money booking this thing. It's going to be crazy.
You're going to be a rich man.
Anyhow, I mean, this is such a big distraction from everything dealing with the Shook Crew. Like, so obviously, you know, the question I want to. So obviously, this tournament for tomorrow was, I think, the last match for the Shook Crew so far. Obviously, Max is in AEW, and you're still the Shook Crew. And I know this is a hard pivot at this point back to reality, away from my 4-ring of hell concept here. Oh man, and we're going to be tweeting GCW this clip because I know they're going to take it. Clearly, I deserve credit for it, or at least I deserve a seat in the pit. Don't worry, we're going to put an octagon around the pit. So anyhow, what we need safety. I mean, what type of sadist do you think I am? Anyhow. So anyhow, getting back to the Shook Crew here. So obviously, when did you find out that Max got signed, and what was that like? Because obviously, I would imagine you're happy for him, and you're on AEW Dark, but then you're losing your rap buddy.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I was too hype about him to worry about losing my buddy, because I mean, I didn't even really lose him. Like, I talked to him every day, whereas he's still at Cap all the time. Where obviously we're going to be on Blitzkrieg together. I found out when he pretty much told us, like, as soon as it happened, like, that he got signed. I mean, we kind of knew it was happening because we kind of got the idea that, like, because he was obviously just texting us throughout the experience, and then we just, like, I mean, we talked before he signed. He, like, talked to us about it, about, like, I mean, not, it's obviously he's going to sign, but, like, it's just the decision-making process on it and, like, processing it through his head. So, yeah, I mean, that was, like, the coolest thing. Like, it's as weird as it's honestly my proudest moment in wrestling is Max getting signed, which is weird because it's not me. Like, it's not something I did, but it's, like, it's the happiest I've been in wrestling by far.
So this is my question, because I don't know if you saw that Ava Everett was on my show last Thursday, and I asked her this question. And I think it's a really important question, and she had a very interesting answer to it. And it seems to me that a lot of people from the Indies are getting signed as of lately.
Yes.
And so it seems like every which way you turn, you have a match with somebody, there's a good chance they're going to get signed somewhere. They're going to get drafted somewhere. Whether it's they're going to New Japan, they're going to Impact or WWE, or they're going to AEW, or they're on an AEW Dark track per se, or on Tier 2 versus Tier 3 or Tier 1. And so what is that like for you? Because every time somebody in the Indies gets signed, a bunch of people step up. There's a new opportunity for everybody. But, I mean, the Limitless title is kind of the curse and the blessing.
That title gets signed. Oh my god! Yeah, Rip wins that thing. They're going off to get signed. I mean, who did Dan Garcia just win it?
We find out on Friday.
Okay, so I know he's wrestling for it. I don't know if the show happened yet, But like,
I think it's premiered. I just think we don't know.
okay, so I don't know. Whoever, I mean, who was the champion? MJF, Anthony, and then Christian, right? Is that it?
Yeah.
Those are the three champions. Yeah. So obviously all of them got signed, but like indie wrestling, yeah, that's the thing people are talking, and people have been talking about forever. So it's weird to like keep bringing it up, but it is like because obviously AEW became a thing, and that was more people getting signed. WWE was already signing more people than ever. Impact and New Japan. New Japan started reaching out and signing more American wrestlers or foreign wrestlers. Impact was signing people, so it's like it just kept growing and growing, where there are more opportunities to be signed. And then obviously that led to more indie wrestlers getting signed and like them going up. But each time, like I feel like there is like the next person or the next group to step up. And maybe like sometimes it'll be before that group is totally ready, but like it'll always be fine. Like I remember when MJF was starting to get his buzz on the indies. Some people would say like, "Oh yeah, he's getting buzzed because everyone got signed." And that was back then. That was like what, like 4 years ago, 3 years ago now. Like, oh yeah, everyone got signed, and that's why he's like, that's just him. But like, clearly they were wrong. Clearly Max has now look at where he is. Like, so I think there's always going to be a next group that's gonna step up in his place. And I don't know, it's just up to the guys there to see who it is. Like obviously Danny Garcia is wrestling for the Limitless title. Like he's not signed. He will be at some point in his career. I'm very confident in that. But like he's gonna everyone's gonna want, like, people want to watch a Dan Garcia match. If you don't want to watch a Dan Garcia match, like do you like you don't like wrestling? Like he puts on great fucking matches. So like there's always going to be those next guys. And like you can look at the group now of who is not signed and who's still like, obviously there's the already established guys like that just haven't been signed but are names already. So they're obviously fine. They're going to continue doing great work. But there is like this new group of people stepping out. And I think there's a lot of really good ones. So like Daniel Garcia is one of them. TJ Crawford's another one. Aaron Rourke from Creative Pro. Like, and then me and Bobby, like, of course we want to be like part of that group. We want to be that next group to kind of, I feel like carry indie wrestling is like a little like dramatic about it, but just that next group of like, when you think about shows right now, like who are the great indie wrestlers right now? Like you want to be in that group that people think of. So, I mean, you can watch Beyond and you'll see people and know that indie wrestling is going to be fine. Like there's plenty of guys there, and there's only going to be more coming out. It's just how like the cycle works now. It's a more rapid than ever cycle, but it's still there, and you'll still have those guys. So
and there's going to be a new class in 6 months of NXT.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Class. They just signed a bunch of guys and girls, and there's going to be a new class in 6 months. And after that, there's going to be a new class. And after that, there's going to be a new class. Yeah. And so obviously it's getting very interesting with what's going on with all of that.
Like just what I was saying about that Limitless show from 2 years ago, like how every match has a signed person in it. Every single one that was on that show, besides like one or two, had someone who signed in it. And that's just going to continue. There's just so many opportunities to get those contracts now that it's just going to naturally like keep, like it's probably frustrating for indie bookers to deal with, especially Limitless, who just keeps having their champion get signed. But I mean, it clearly means they're doing something right if their champion every time gets signed. All three, like I'm sure everyone, like it's not a hot take to say that MJF, AG, and Christian are all like great wrestlers.
Also, it's also a problem for Beyond. We're big into Beyond.
Yeah, I mean, you never really like Slade's another Creative Pro guy. Like Slade wrestled in the pre-show for Beyond against Ben Carter, like 2 weeks before Ben Carter became like trending on Twitter and like this big giant deal. So like you never really know when it's gonna happen or who it's gonna happen for or whatever. And like obviously Beyond was starting to use Max. They were gonna the Max was about to have a lot of great Beyond matches. and he got signed, and that's like before they even really got to like put him in like main event positions and like larger positions, he got signed. It's just like promoters, obviously it's frustrating for them to deal with, but I mean, I think Beyond does a good job of like finding the next group clearly because they've dealt with so many people getting signed. So I don't know. I think there's always like a next generation, and any wrestler that's obviously not a name right now wants to be part of that generation, the next one. So yeah, I mean, that's what I want to be. I want to be in that. I want to be part of that group.
And I think that I mean Ava, and what I asked her, what was this idea of like you wrestle somebody and it could be your first and last match with them forever.
Yeah.
The way it's going, and I don't think that existed 5 years ago.
No.
And I think it is a crazy wrestling world, and I think it's an awesome wrestling world, but I also think it's insane. I mean, there are people who had their first match with Christian Casanova, and that was their last match with Christian Casanova. Yeah. And like, I just think that is so ludicrous because legitimately there in the last, I think 2 years have been about 30 feuds that could have lasted for about 3 years. And now we're not going to get those feuds. One of the feuds that could have gone on for the next 2 years was Alec Price and Christian. And that is not going to happen. Yeah. And that is a shame.
Yeah. Alec Price is another one, like new guy, like I don't know how old he is. He's very young, clearly.
Very young.
Yeah. There's another new guy who's really good and is only going to get better. Like
there's always doesn't know how good he is. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And he was on my show, and I was taking him like bluntly, and I was aiming at it, but I said it directly or indirectly. I said, like, do you know how good you are? Like, I was trying to get him to understand that I could see it a mile out.
Yeah, I mean, some people are more like into that. Like, some people know it earlier. Like, I know if you ask Dan Garcia, he'll tell you he's going to be the fucking best wrestler in the world, right? And then some other guys are like, oh, you know, like maybe I'll just be like this. So it's like each one is different. Every guy's different, but I think everyone should have that goal. Like Alex Price should look at the landscape right now, see how young he is, and be like, yeah, I'm going to be in that group. I'm going to be in that next group of the people who are running indie wrestling. Like that's going to be me.
So in January, when GCW ran their New Year's show, I said publicly the 5 wrestlers to watch out for, and I forgot the 4th one. I said number 1 is Jordan Oliver. I said number 2 is Elena Black. Number 3 is Blake Christian. I forgot who's number 4 is, and I said number 5 is Lee Moriarty.
Well, yeah.
2021. Is that list wrong?
Yeah, I mean, Lee clearly, like Lee Moriarty probably probably has like the most indie hype right now, I think. Like, I would say like
TV champ.
Yeah, he's definitely got the most like buzz out of the indie guys right now. I would guess
those 5. Just to put this in perspective, legitimately, I made that tweet I think on January 1st or 2nd. Within 2 weeks, Blake and Elena Black got signed. We know Jordan Oliver is going to get signed. There's no question about that.
Yeah,
that guy is too good. Lee is too good, and I've got the 4th guy who I said, but you know, my point is that I said these are the 5 wrestlers to watch out for. And my point is that clearly 2 weeks after 2 of them get signed, we know Jordan is going to get signed. We know Lee is going to get an opportunity eventually because that guy is amazing. And so I just think indie wrestling has never been healthier.
Yeah, I mean, it always sucks when like you lose a bunch of guys that you want to watch on these shows, but then the next one's going to come in. And also people are kind of, it's so rapid fire, but people are also kind of impatient with the new group sometimes. Like they'll just kind of think like, oh, well, they're not as good as like the guy that got signed. And then this isn't like, I said it before about how people said that about MJF. And then before they know it, like this person that they said, oh, they're not as good, they're now the guy who got signed. And they're just kind of moving on to the next person saying, oh, well, they're not as good as that last guy. Like, it's just going to keep going like that. So I would say to fans, just like, if you think like, oh, all the good guys got signed, like, just be a little more patient with these new guys, because I think if you gave a lot of them a chance, like you're gonna see some really great stuff from them. And some of them, and some of them are probably like wouldn't be in this position if all those people didn't get signed, but all those people did get signed and they're in this position now. So like, what do you like? That's what you have to deal with. So
it's crazy because I'm very honest about this. One of the biggest problems I have as an interviewer on the wrestling front, it's a little bit easier with the indie comic people because I could sort of spot talent a little bit easier on who's going to be the next into DC or Marvel, and also who's also making a lot of money on the indies and creating a lot of buzz in the indie comic world. It's easier to spot, and it's also a little bit more accessible. But in wrestling, it is getting crazy where, it is hard to spot people early. And it is art because when everybody's getting signed, it's just like, okay, who's the next big person? Who's going to be the next big entity? I mean, I've been lucky and fortunate enough that AG's been on, Tegan Knox has been on, Leva Bates has been on, Chris Daniels, Kazarian's been on, and there's a bunch of other people. But I understand the complete issue promoters have. And I also it's saying, hey, how do you find who's really good and when they become good? And like Alec Price was on, and then I know for a mile out that he's going to be one of the next big things in the next 2 years, if not sooner. And it would be really foolish if AEW and WWE are not looking at him heavy. Billy Starks is another good one to drop down there, which that she is going to be a bigger deal than Alec. Billy Starks is Daniel Bryan level good, and she is 17.
Yeah.
Which is scary as fuck.
I feel like invoking Daniel Bryan level good is like a super
unfair
standard to place on someone.
Twitter banner. That's what we have to do. We should do it in our Twitter banners. Clearly, Daniel Bryan good at Instagram.
All right, which one? Who of these guys is the greatest indie wrestler of all time? Level good. Like, it's such a high standard to place on someone.
Daniel Bryan level good.
Look at a 17-year-old say, "Yo, you're as good as Daniel Bryan, right?" Like,
I think I'm gonna put that into my cover letter that I have to write tomorrow for a job. I'm gonna play. I am Daniel Bryan level good.
I think Edith responded to that tweet, and she was like, "All right, slow down there. Hold on a second. You don't want that. You don't want to get that put on you. You don't want people saying you're Daniel. Like, for someone who like, if you are a fan of like the history of indie wrestling." Like saying someone's like Bryan Danielson is like, oh, like that's a high level to put on someone, and that's a lot of pressure to put on someone.
I think I'm going to use that during Mania week. I'm just going to do it every wrestler that comes out.
Just do every tweet. Yo, this guy's Daniel Bryan. Just have those guys look at their phone like shit. Like, oh man, I'm gonna have a really good next match.
I'm gonna take it back. I'm taking it back.
Yeah. Oh god, that'd be so stressful.
You're gonna legitly see like out of the entire on the 7th, 8th, and 9th of that week, you're gonna see so many tweets like that from my Twitter handle. Everybody is gonna be hysterically funny because nobody's gonna know why I said it. Oh, it's gonna be great. You should join me in doing it. You should join me in doing it.
I tweeted about myself. I'll make 100 burner accounts and just tweet Bryce Donovan is Daniel Bryan level good, and just hope people go, oh shit, look at all these Twitter accounts saying it. And then
after this interview, and I start tweeting it out, I'm gonna put this interview is Bryan Daniel good.
Yeah. This Bryan good. Yeah, this interview is Bryan Danielson level good. Great stuff.
So having said all of that, and we've been talking for almost 2 hours, I do want to give you an opportunity to promote yourself and to know you cannot mention anything about Doflamingo.
Oh, I can't. Damn it. He's right here. He's gonna sneak up. Hey, hello there. No, yeah, I mean, you can again, I brought up the Creative Pro Open House. That's Thursday. That's important for our school. So anyone who wants to be a wrestler in the Long Island area, go to that. All my social medias are at Bryce D Shook, Twitter, Instagram. Follow me on both. I post things. You can on YouTube subscribe to Shook Crew on YouTube. We post content. Max's AEW music videos are all going up on there. They premiere. We have it set up they'll premiere on there now, so you'll get to see them first before everyone else. And also follow Creative Pro on YouTube because that's where Cap TV, the weekly episodes will be posted. I hope that's all the stuff I have to promote. Beyond's got a show coming up. Blitzkrieg's got shows coming up. Follow my social media. You'll hear all the stuff will be at, because hopefully there's more shows coming up and we will be on them and we'll be talking about them. It's nice to have shows coming up again, like consistently. It's a good feeling, especially now that I'm vaccinated and I feel comfortable actually doing them, which is
it's like a gift in which that you never thought you'd be back. But
yeah,
I digress right there.
Yeah. But so that's it.
So obviously, having said all that, I am gonna just encourage everybody. You have to support indie. It is ultra important at this stage to support indie. Also, when I say support indie, I mean support by buying merch. Merch is a big thing.
I should have promoted my merch. ProWrestlingTees.com/ShookCrew. I should have said that. I missed that one.
So obviously, Shook Crew, Pro Wrestling Tees. Probably just type in Shook Crew; it'll probably get you there. I'm sure you also have links to it on your social media as well. And the reason why I say you have to support financially, obviously, wrestling throughout 2020 and 2021 for most wrestlers was rough. It was not as lucrative. There was a hell of a lot less shows for most wrestlers, and merch subsidizes that. It also helps with that entire situation. And so if you have the financial means, buy a t-shirt, buy an 8x10, buy a bracelet, buy anything else that that wrestler may have, because it does go a long way. And it is super important. But let's say you're in a tough position because COVID legitimately has caused a lot of damage, and money is tighter. And even with that stimulus check that's coming for a bunch of people, please make sure that your rent is paid, your mortgage is paid, make sure your electricity's on, make sure you got water, food, shelter, make sure your spouse is okay, or your partner's okay, your girlfriend, your boyfriend is okay, make sure your dog's all right, make sure your kids are good, make sure that you're going to be fine for next month too is a big one that I'm encouraging. And if that's the case, then you should be following people on social media and you should be engaging with them on social media. Because while you might not be able to support somebody financially and buy merch from them, following on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook pages, engaging, sharing that content, it goes a long way for two reasons. A, it shows that the wrestler is popular to promoters. Also gets out their matches, gets out their brand awareness, as well as you never know who it's going to reach and who's going to become a fan or buy their merch. In which that somebody you might not know might see you retweeting something and I'd be like, oh man, who is this person? Let me check them out. So obviously that's super important to engage and follow people on social media. And if you do have the financial means to, buy a shirt from a wrestler, you should still be following them on social media. You should do both. So obviously, having said all that, hopefully I am convincing people here to do that. I've been saying this for almost 150 times in a row in the last year at this point. So until everybody starts doing it, I'm going to continue to say it. But on that note, I will give you the final word on anything else you'd like to add or promote or anything you'd like to say to people. Final word is yours.
Oh God, I have the floor. Hi everybody. I'm Bryce Donovan. I have the floor right now to close this show. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I hope what he's saying is right. Like, obviously everyone, I don't need people to like buy all my merch or anything. If you want to buy a shirt, like great, all the stuff's great. But yeah, I mean, when people just like tweet at me or retweet something or like something, like that makes me feel good. Obviously that's such a new age thing to say. I'm not saying it's like, oh, I'm living for these likes and retweets, but like it's good to like have that recognition, especially if you put effort into something like me and Bobby do to a lot of our like videos and posts, like having that, having it shared or liked, or people just saying, yeah, I like that. That was cool. Like it makes it worth it, even though it seems like a small thing. So yeah, I agree with everything you were saying. And yeah, I'm just glad to have shows back and be able to do more things. So yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully the summer's cool. I'm very hyped.
I'm very hyped for the summer too, and that's a wrap.
Later.